Hello, I'm Amanda Sanchez, and I will be talking about State Road 29 Wildlife Crossing Plan for the Protection of the Florida Panther. This PowerPoint is for Environmental Management 501 at American Military University, summer of 2025. This topic that we'll be focusing on is for the installation of wildlife crossings along State Road 29 near Immokalee, Florida in the Southwest. This is due just to the high number of deaths that are occurring on this road in this specific area. In 2024, there were 36 deaths on record. 31 of those were from vehicle strikes, and 18 of those vehicle strikes were in Collier County around Immokalee. So just a little background on the Florida panther. They are considered an endangered species. They've been listed since 1967, and there are less than 200 that remain in the wild. When it comes to their habitat, they typically have large home ranges up to 200 square miles for males and 175 square miles for females. And they're typically found in forest, wetlands, and pinelands. They are a very important panther. They are apex predators, so they help regulate prey populations like wild hogs, which are considered invasive, and white-tailed deer. They are also considered an indicator species. Their survival reflects with the health of the ecosystems in Florida overall. And they're dealing with threats. When it comes to their habitats, this is due to agriculture, road expansions, and urban developments, which is causing an increase in habitat fragmentation, vehicle collisions, as I've stated before, genetic bottleneck. This is due to the low numbers that there's an increase in inbreeding because of the lower genetic diversity. And then human and wildlife conflict. This is between homeowners, landowners, farmers, and ranchers. So this is all happening specifically in Collier County. This is our focus area, more so Immokalee, and the high impact areas. And the top right photo, you can see where Collier County is in the orange. This is just north of the Everglades. And then to the left is our outline of Immokalee. And the blue dots are going to indicate where we're seeing pretty much the vehicle strikes and where we would like to implement the crossings. So we have State Road 29 junction with State Road 82 north and south. So those are going to be our bottom two blue dots. We have State Road 29 north of Newmarket Road West, which is our second from the top blue dot. And State Road 29 south of Oils Wells Road, which is going to be our most northern dot. Just a little history about the area. In the 1500s, this was tribal land. So we had the Calusa tribe that was the dominant tribe in Collier County. They depended on fishing and systematic foraging for sustenance. And as time progressed, hunters, trappers, cowmen, and missionaries made their way to the area. In the 1800s, after the war against the U.S. Army, the Seminole tribe found refuge here, setting up hunting camps in the high prairie land. And in 1893, Immokalee finally gets its name by its trades post owner's daughter, which originates from the Native American language that translates to home or place of refuge. And then the population grew during the next 50 years. Farmers and ranchers made their way to Immokalee, which then led to others coming to work in agriculture. And in the 1920s, the Atlantic Coast Line Railway train route opened up in Immokalee, and this increased trades and businesses. And in the 1960s, we had the industry boom. And since agriculture was doing extremely well in this area, the population then grew with more diversity, leading to more immigrants being employed, eventually making Immokalee the center of Florida's multi-million-dollar agriculture industry. So Immokalee today. The population sits at about 2.6 thousand people based off of 2023's data, with high diversity between nationalities. And throughout the 20th century, Immokalee and central Collier County were populated by agriculture and not so much the urban sprawl. And then its agriculture is known for its tomatoes, peppers, sugarcane, and citrus. And although Immokalee deals a lot with agriculture, there is still land pressure from development moving to the east, putting conservation at risk. And there has been about 359,000 acres of forest that have been lost due to the history of agriculture and urban development in Collier County. When looking at the soil in this region, if you look up here for Immokalee, we're looking at the fact that we have fine sand in the general region. But then we look over at table 14, we're looking at the classification of the soil. For Immokalee, we have sandy, siliceous, hyperthermic arenik haploquods, and these are more so going to be the fact that it is poorly drained sandy soil that is found in hot climates with temperature variations between seasons. And this is typically found in the coastal plains of southeastern United States, which makes sense why we're seeing it in Florida. And these type of soils are often utilized in agriculture, particularly for crops that tolerate periodic flooding and sandy conditions, which is what Southwest Florida is. For vegetation that we see in the area, we typically find pine flatwoods, hardwood hammocks, Florida dry prairies, cypress domes, and of course row crops because, agriculture. But when it comes to the Florida panther, pine flatwoods and hardwood hammocks are considered optimal cover and hunting grounds that also provide great denning locations for them. For the Florida dry prairies, it's great foraging areas, which then also serve as corridors for the panther movement. And the cypress domes are great coverage, but also provide a water source. Wildlife that we typically find in the region. So the Florida panther and many of its prey species, to include the white-tailed deer. Feral hogs that I've mentioned before that are considered invasive. They were brought over by European settlers as a food source, but then escaped and established themselves in Southwest Florida. So now we see them. Then we have common mesopredators, so the raccoons, opossums, foxes, and bobcats. We have wading birds that rely on the marshes and shallow water habitats that protect the prey of the panther. So those are more so going to be like herons, egrets, and spoonbills. We have the keystone species like the gopher tortoise that provide shelter for other wildlife, and then the American alligator that influences prey availability and influences the ecosystems in the wetland. And now we have policy concerns. So a couple of them, land use conflict. This is a major concern because most of the land around State Road 29 is agriculture, but farmers may feel pressured to sell, and which then creates tension between conservation and livelihoods. Funding and delays is another one. The project cost about $5.8 million to make one crossway. This can be vulnerable to delays and competition with other priorities. And we have local stakeholders, which can consider of landowners and farmers, which may be directly impacted by land changes, and then local governments that typically must balance conservation and growth. And then we have FDOT, which would play a central road role since the project ties directly into the road planning. And then residents, which would be, worried about property rights or safety. And then our wildlife agencies that must ensure that the crossways will support the panther recovery goal. And then this is just my photo references and my research references. Thank you for taking the time to watch this whole thing. I appreciate it.